Hello, I am Xarkun. This is World of Warships Legends. We've got Paolo de Revel on the screen. He is the commander I am using for the new Tier 4 premium Italian battleship Giulio Cesare. Notice I do have Artisan's Touch still selected after my Roma review, and that might come into play a little bit here. We're going to be on Archipelago Domination mode. Going to go over the stats briefly and talk about how the ship performs, call some shots as the game goes on. It's got 45,500 hit points, the Giulio Cesare. That's pretty low for the tier. Only the Breton has less hit points. 6 to 280 millimeters of armor. The reason I'm pointing this out is because that 280 millimeters, lowest max armor value at the tier for whatever that's worth. We don't know what that really translates to in reality since there is no armor viewer, but I will say this ship does feel a little bit squishy for a battleship at Tier 4. 36% torpedo damage reduction, very good for the tier. I think it is actually the best. It's got 10 320mm guns, relatively small caliber for the tier. Only the Koenig has smaller guns at 305mm. 14.7 kilometer range. That's a relatively average base range, I think. Although most Tier 4 battleships that you're going to come across are probably going to outrange you because they're probably using commanders with flammable cannoneer. Obviously, we don't have one of those for the Italians at this time. 28.9 second reload on the guns, slightly faster than average for the tier. 31 second turret traverse on my build, which is actually very quick for the tier. The HE shells do a maximum of 4,800 damage, 35% chance to start fire, which is decent. And then the AP shells do a maximum of 9,700 damage, which is one of the lower ones across my builds at the tier. Now the ship is fast though, 27 knot max speed, and it has fantastic maneuverability overall. Only the Congo at this tier is faster. But the Giulio here turns a lot better than the Congo with a 640-meter turning circle and a relatively responsive rudder shift time, 13 seconds even. And it also has 12.7 kilometer detectability by sea, which is less than your average Tier 4 battleship by a little bit. Most of them are over 13 kilometers. It's actually tied, though, with the Peter the Great for concealment here. Now, about how the ship performs. Well, I can tell you one thing. It's fantastic at punishing broadsides, and even with Artisan's Touch, we can get a dev strike on an Emile Bertin, first blood award, first kill. He goes down, gotten tons of devastating strikes on cruisers. This thing, even with Artisan's Touch on them, is fully capable of deleting cruisers, and I think we're going to delete another one before this game is over. As far as battleships, so it doesn't fare too well against very angled targets most of the time, unless you're aiming for the lightly armored parts of the ship. However, you get a broadside battleship and you shoot at the waterline, particularly with Artisan's Touch. Those shells are going to penetrate. They do seem to have great penetrative qualities, even though they are relatively small caliber. It's nothing like, say, the Koenig's guns at Tier 4, which, in my opinion, aren't very good. These seem to have pretty high shell velocity, no problems penetrating even heavily armored battleships at the tier, as long as they're giving you more of a broadside. There, we do get a very good hit into the Corbett's superstructure, maybe upper hull there. He goes down. Only a Marblehead is left on this flank, and once he goes down, we'll have cleared it entirely, leaving things open for our team to cap. Although, I think I'm actually wrong. There is a Tier 4 Russian destroyer hiding in that smokescreen. He's not really a torpedo threat, and not much is going to come of him. Another devastating strike on a cruiser, 2 citadels on that Marblehead. Again, he goes down. And, you know, if you weren't convinced that this ship is a very effective cruiser killer, Now you probably are. I'm sorry, it's a Tier 3 Russian destroyer, the Izyaslav. He did launch torpedoes, but we were out of his 4-kilometer range, and it looks like the friendly destroyer there who is launching torpedoes at him. Yep, gonna take him out. So, now this entire side of the map is clear. The further side of the map is the only part that contains any enemies. Looks like 3 battleships and a single destroyer versus 1 battleship, so he's probably going to be going down by the time my team gets to the other side of the map and is able to support him. Now, there's an interesting thing about the Giulio Cesare, and I wish we had an armor viewer because I don't know this for a fact, but I can tell you when it's up-tiered, battleships with 15-inch guns, like the Queen Elizabeth, the Warspite, or the Bayern, fully capable of overmatching the bow armor. I am almost 100% sure of that, and I believe some battleships with smaller guns, perhaps even battleships with 14-inch guns, 356 millimeters, I think even they might be able to overmatch this thing's bow armor. It seems to have, relatively light armor coating. It can, in my experience, bounce shells, AP shells, from most Tier 4 battleships, maybe even Tier 5 ones with larger guns off of its side armor, if it is correctly angled, but you're still probably going to take some penetration damage. And I think that's the trade-off you get for having excellent speed. The Congo at Tier 4 is faster, as I said, by about 3 knots, and that is more in the vein of a battle cruiser, because the Congo is also pretty lightly armored. This is a little bit like that too, although I think the guns have a lot more punch to them. Not so much at longer range, and you can see the dispersion and shell grouping on that shot that we took there at the Koenig leaves a little bit to be desired. Not pinpoint accurate, not necessarily going to be hitting every shell. I think we only got 1 there. As we draw closer, though, we have a much easier time hitting the target, and the shells are very good at penetrating armor, as I said before. So, in some ways, the Giulio Cesare and the Roma, too, remind me a little bit of the Russian battleships. The Giulio here a little bit less so, because it doesn't seem to be quite the effective tank that, say, the Peter the Great is at Tier 4. The Roma at Tier 7 is, but the thing that these share in common with the Russian battleships is they seem to be quite a bit less accurate at long range, quite a bit more accurate at closer range, and they have an incredible power to punch through armor, which is why they remind me a little bit of the Russian battleships, these 2 Italian battleships that we have in the game, even though technically the Roma isn't in there yet. Now here's a more medium to long range shot on the Koenig. We hit him there for a very nice salvo, nearly kill him. We're up to 73,000 damage done now, so we aren't doing too badly. Ship count is even. Enemy team has a few more points than we do, but we hold the majority of capture circles, and we still enjoy a 1 destroyer advantage. Unfortunately, their last remaining destroyer is a kamikaze, who is shooting torpedoes at me. So we're going to take 2 of them here, 1 on the bow, 1 more toward the side of the ship. Again, 36% torpedo damage reduction for the Giulio here is pretty dang good for the tier, and it can take a good amount of punishment from torpedoes. Still don't want to be hitting them, or getting hit by them, rather, and your excellent maneuverability with the tight turning circle, responsive rudder shift time, and pretty high speed, makes it so dodging torpedoes isn't that difficult. Got this Congo out here. We're giving him broadside. He's not quite aiming his guns at us. There, he hits us. We aren't quite angled. We do take a little bit of penetration damage from that, but it could have been a lot worse. And we are able to finish off the Congo there. That's 3 kills now, 80,000 damage done. We've only got the Kamikaze and an Arizona left, and you can see, or not in Arizona, in Arkansas. You can see the Arkansas there hits us in the bow pretty hard. Bow armor was slightly angled there. He's able to punch right through it. So you can see what I mean about this ship being somewhat squishy. Nevertheless, I kind of like it. I think it's a pretty fun ship. The speed and maneuverability is nice. Allows you to get into positions quickly. The guns, when you get them in the right situation, you know, they just beat the crap out of the enemies you're facing. We're going to see one more fantastic shot coming up on that Arkansas out there. But as far as Tier 4 premiums go, if you're in the market for one of those and you're new to the game, I'm not sure how well this ship might suit you, given that it is a little bit squishy. You might be better off going for something like the Texas, the American Tier 4 battleship, because that is a little bit more heavily armored and perhaps a little bit more forgiving than this ship when you're being shot at by battleship caliber AP. Not so much torpedoes. Nevertheless, I think I would recommend this one. It's not a bad ship. Actually seems to be pretty good, and I've had quite a lot of fun in it in the few games that I've played. So, you know, if you're relatively experienced, if you kind of like the idea of these Italian battleships, you're probably going to like this one. Here's this shot on the Arkansas, nearly full health down to pretty much nothing with 3 citadels right there. Incredible punching power of these guns. We've taken him down to almost no health, and I think one of our teammates is going to finish him off here. Unfortunately, the friendly Farragut is also dead. The Breton there finishes off the Arkansas. We've only got the Kamikaze left. Apparently, he is using... what's that guy's name? The Halloween Commander, Van Helsinger, I think? Maybe Kurita. He's got twist and track, though, because we're located, which is interesting. I think this guy might be a professional seal clubber. So it may not be totally advisable to go out and do this, but he's the last ship left alive. We get the Confederate award with that hit on him, and there we take him down to pretty much no health. Teammate finishes him off, and we win the battle. So there you have it. I think that was 116,000 damage done. Not a bad game in the... or 122,000. Not a bad game there in the Giulio Cesare. Again, pretty fun ship. Nice Tier 4 premium. I like it. You're in the market for it, and you want to pick this one up, go ahead. You know, just be careful if you're newer to the game and not familiar with angling and armor and all that kind of thing. Hope you liked it. If so, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. I'll see you next time.